Even the best episodes in RWBY have their bad moments. The show is fundamentally flawed, and at its best it just makes the most of a bad situation. Volume 6 exemplifies this. There's plenty of bad scenes, but nothing that fills me with absolute rage like some of the worst scenes in other volumes. Because of that, this video is going to be a little on the shorter side. It's the smaller, simpler things that grind my gears in these scenes, and nothing worth throwing a hissy fit over. But once again, there are just 10 scenes in order of appearance, with only one scene per episode. So right out the gate, I don't hate this whole bit in the train station, but I also find it poorly used its time. There's a lot of direct references to complaints that were hurled at Volume 5, but for all the boasting about learning their lesson, they do repeat some mistakes throughout the volume. Like, remember when huntsmen were supposed to be these badass heroes our protagonists aspire to be? Well, here's our first look at living professional huntsmen that aren't part of Ozpin's inner circle or teachers, and their fodder characters. And then Ozpin decides to joke about these guys who are supposed to be
the defenders of the world.
Yeah, and boasting about how they aren't Beacon graduates. As if he didn't literally just find out the Haven headmaster had been in league with Salem. For the second scene, this bit with the relic, it only exists to state the rules of the relic and set up how Ozpin is lying, but it also takes us right back into the Volume 5 house. Just because it's a flashback doesn't change the fact that you're dragging us back there. The third scene I want to talk about is, big surprise, another exposition dump. But this isn't really any particular scene from episode 3, though if I had to pick I would pick the scene with Ozma and God. It's really the general feel that I had throughout the episode, but especially in this scene. Ozpin didn't do anything wrong in this episode. There's no reason for him to have lied about this. Keeping Salem's existence a secret all this time has absolutely no benefits. If there was something worth being ashamed about, it would work, but there's not, so it doesn't. The fourth scene I want to mention is really just a few seconds that completely ruins what could have been a contender for the best list. Salem gets genuinely angry for the first time in the series, and it's really well done and nerve-wracking, and then they have to ruin it. The scream is more silly than anything, and the entire scene would have been better if it just cut when the door shut. The fifth scene is just an unnecessary one. Why did Cinder bring Neo to the vault? Who shut the vault and how?
And without the Spring Maiden here to seal the relic back in its vault?
Why is she just saying stuff we already know? The volume is at its best when it's containing itself and giving us interesting scenarios, and at its worst when it's trying to validate the existence of Volume 5. And this scene, more than any other scene in the volume, reminded me of just how miserable it was to watch and review Volume 5. The sixth bad scene is Cordovin's introduction. I can see what they were trying to do. Ozpin's backstory, the apathy, and Maria's flashback were all pretty hefty scenes in terms of raw content, and adding some levity is a good idea on paper. I also like the idea that Cordovin was put on Argus duty because of how obnoxious she is. But much like a bad comedy, just because they're supposed to be annoying doesn't excuse how hard it is to sit through this scene. They tried to fail and succeeded, and the result was the cringiest scene since the locker room bit from Volume 1. The seventh scene, big surprise, the revelation that Oscar didn't run away, and was actually just clothes shopping. I recently went into detail about why this is bad in my honest look at Oscar, but in short, they didn't give him a reason to run, they didn't give him a reason to stay, and they squandered a perfect opportunity to develop him. I know I'm cheating with these last three scenes, but the Cordovin mech fight plays out over the course of 4 episodes, and accounts for over half of the stupidest things in the entire volume. Cordovin whips up the entire city into a panic because she's having a dick measuring contest with a bunch of kids. She is just as obnoxious as she is in her intro. There are several fake outs. The mech keeps teleporting massive distances between shots, disabling it amounts to nothing because it still manages to one-shot the Leviathan, and the amount of sloppy editing, camera work, and overall visual quality gives the Battle of Haven a run for its money. Not to mention that beat for beat, the Cordovin stuff in episode 11 is identical to the stuff in episode 12. At least Adam versus Blake and Yank mix it up a bit for each stage of the fight. If the Adam fight wasn't in these episodes, this could have dragged the entire volume down with it. So those are my thoughts on the 10 worst scenes in RWBY Volume 6. There's not much else to say. The strength of a RWBY volume is in proportion to its most awful scenes. And even the worst scenes in this volume weren't as bad as the most average scenes in some of the other volumes. The next 2 videos will likely have a far greater range in quality, but I'll get into that next time. I'm Mediocrity4, thanks for watching.